Well, good morning. I meet with quite a few people, and often we talk about their devotional time, their time in the morning of prayer and scripture reading. And I'm not sure what you call it or how you view it. It could be just morning prayer, it could be devotions, it could be Bible study, reflection, meditation. But I've often used the phrase quiet time. And I don't know about you, but for whatever reason, that phrase quiet time triggers something in me, and it triggers just that sense of not enough. It's almost a table of not measuring up in the presence of God. And I don't know why that is. I trace it back perhaps to working with middle schoolers. I was a middle school pastor. And I just remember the season of life and ministry with these middle schoolers. And we were talking about the quiet time and how to have a quiet time. And I recall sometime in that season showing up at Northwest Guilford Middle to have lunch with a student. And I realized that student had silent lunch. So they had gotten in trouble or something. And so I showed up to have lunch with them. And they were like at this table of shame, of correction. And I was talking to the teacher, and somewhere it came up that, yeah, they have to be silent. They use that word silent, but also use the word quiet in that conversation. And I thought, oh my gosh, I am trying to help these students with their quiet time. And perhaps there's some association, some negative association with silent lunch. Maybe that is it for me. I'm not sure if you can relate to that at all. But it does beg the question, why do we think of time with God as a performance, as something that I have to do in which I'm never enough? Why is there such an achievement perspective when it comes to morning prayer and scripture reading? And, you know, I think part of it is when we come in the presence of God to start our day, we are the host. We feel in charge. We feel like we have to be the manager. We have to set the table. We have to invite God in to our place. And I just think that is a subtle lie. I just don't think we are to be host of our spiritual life. I think we need to have more of a perspective of being receptive to God. And so in this short video, I wanted to share some thoughts that I'm really trying to challenge that perspective of performing in God's presence. And Dallas Willard said it wonderfully. He said, grace is not opposed to effort, but it is opposed to earning. And so the effort that I'm about to share with you is really an effort to create space, to show up, to posture my soul to receive. That's how I'm battling this idea of quiet time being a performance. And whenever I ask someone, how's it going with your quiet time or your devotions? There's almost always an answer of, I could do so much better. And so here's some ideas. This is what I do. I'm at the table that I sit at this morning. And this might be a little bit too much information, and you might think I'm crazy, but I just felt that it could be helpful to some folks. So as I come this morning, I usually have a cup of coffee. I pre-make my coffee, so that's just one less thing I have to do in the morning. I pre-make it the night before, and as I come, I like to crack the window. And the reason I like to crack the window is to have fresh air come in and to hear the sounds of the morning. I just think oftentimes the birds, they have a sermon to preach in the morning. They wake up as the sun rises, and I just love seeing the sun hit the tops of the trees outside my window. That's just important to me. It makes time in the morning with God more holistic and experiential. I also enjoy lighting candles, and again, this is crazy, but I've got a candle right here. I often like to read the scriptures with candlelight. And I've never really heard anybody do this, but if it's dark outside I just like that. And this is why I like it, because electricity came about in, gosh, I guess the late 1800s. By 1925, only half of the US had electricity. And my thinking on that is were centuries of people and Christians that would read the scripture without electricity. They would read the scripture early in the morning or at night by candlelight. And I just like joining them in that. That sounds so weird, but it has become kind of a rhythm of, hey, I'm gonna come here this morning and I'm here to receive, and here are some different elements to help me receive. What does God have for me? What is he up to? What is he saying? I like to be in a comfortable chair. I like to have my journal here, and I use that journal if I have something that is distracting me in the morning or something that is really on my mind, something is bothering me. I generally, the first half of the page, I'll write it down, I'll get it off my chest, and then I'll slide the journal away and then continue my prayer and my scripture reading. And then I'll come back to the journal and reflect on what I feel like God is speaking to me about. I enjoy doing this in the morning. Some people like to have a time of prayer and scripture reading at night. Morning is important for me because I feel like it begins the day well. A symphony generally warms up before playing, not after playing. And I think that is really a perspective of coming from Colossians 3 to set our minds, to take intentionally set our minds. Because if we don't do that, man, our minds will be set for us. You just look at Facebook this morning and all the things that will be said politically. You know, the world would love to set your mind for you. And so this is, again, a time of effort to show up with Jesus as host. We are never host. And so when I come to the scriptures, I read with more of a posture of receiving from him. And I read in two ways. I read fast and I read slow. When I read fast, I really attempt to understand context, understand what the author is saying, understand the bigger picture. When I read slow, I will read for change, for transformation, for my heart to really engage with what God is saying to me. I do both. And sometimes I do more than one than the other. I have a Bible Hub app. If I'm curious about some Greek and Hebrew words, I will refer to that. But I do both, and I think that's really important to let your head and your heart come to the table that Jesus has set for us. I also have this cross that often I will hold in prayer, and as I hold that, it reminds me to relinquish life and to open my hands to both relinquish and to receive what God has for me. As I move into kind of my scripture reading, and then out of my scripture reading, it will just come to a place of prayer. So I'm praying what I heard God say. I'm then beginning to pray for our community, pray for our city, pray for our nation, and then come back around to praying for family, and especially praying for Emily. I feel such a burden to pray for her and her work and who she is, and I am her biggest fan and supporter, and so that is an essential part of this time, that praying for my beloved wife is really a way that I complete that time in the morning. And often our morning routines is we'll often have some time to talk as well, to have conversation before we jump straight into our day. So, those are some thoughts that I have that based on some conversations I've had with folks I meet with for soul care. This feels like a good thing to put out there on Facebook. But more than anything else, remember, this is not a table of correction, of condemning. If Jesus leads you into a place of disciplining you, then great. But we don't come to this table thinking, oh, I'm not going to be enough today, and I'm not going to do this well. No, this is a table where Jesus is host. He is always host. We are never host. It is at this table that he is in charge. He is the manager, and we can receive from him. That puts me in a place to live an active life with God on this day today. So if his mercies are new every morning, are we posturing ourselves to receive those mercies? So that's my question I'll leave with you today. And so may God bless you and keep you. May his face shine upon you. Take care.